everyone, and welcome to the MyCom Podcast. I'm Joaquin Bello. In this edition of the MyCom Podcast, we're looking at a wide range of issues, from politics to economy, and of course, issues relating to some social issues relating to things that have happened in the past and the views of my guests today on the podcast. Don't forget that this podcast is independent of my weekday Politics Today on Channels Television and the weekend edition Sunday Politics. This podcast is especially for the independent mind, young Nigerians who are hoping and interested in the Nigerian issues and in the Nigerian agenda and dream. And tonight, on today's episode, we're pushing that agenda, Nigeria and issues of national importance. And today, one person that finds it almost impossible not to talk about Nigeria is controversial in so many ways because his views, some of those who oppose him find highly unnecessary, controversial, and sometimes they go after him and he also goes after them. My guest today is a former presidential aide and a bestseller, a writer. Mr. Reno Omokri sometimes is a pastor. Reno Omokri, thank you so much for joining us on the MyCom Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Sheon. God bless you.
I appreciate your time today. It seems that you've tried to emerge with a new look. The white beards that you put in the center of your chin looks like a rebranding. Is it deliberate?
Well, it was an accident by my barber, and we just accepted it that way.
It's been a while. You sneaked into the country some times ago. I thought I could be able to catch up with you. And the last time I was on the podcast, you were on this podcast. I told you that I was going to hold you by the trouser for some reasons, but that wasn't possible. So you sneaked in and you sneaked out. A lot of your supporters or those who follow you think that there might be a reason why Reno sneaked in and he couldn't wait in Nigeria. Do you have any reason why it was impossible for you to stay for some time in Nigeria?
Oh, no reason at all. I'm always traveling. I just got back from Texas where I met with state officials in Texas. It was in the Texas papers. And right now I'm in Europe. From here, I'm going to Asia. So I've always had a childhood ambition to travel to every country on earth. So I'm constantly traveling. So I was invited into the country and I came in, spent 36 hours, and I left to continue on my travels. There was nothing more to it.
But you spent less than 48 hours in the country, I understand.
Yeah, I actually spent about 36 hours. I came in, dropped my bags at the Hilton, went to the 3 zone, saw a top government official, and then I saw my former boss, former President Jonathan, and I went to sleep at the Hilton. Next morning, I was out of the country.
Oh, you couldn't see President Tinubu, but because recently you've been a huge supporter and a campaigner for Bola Tinubu.
No, that's not correct. I'm not a campaigner for Bola Tinubu. I'm not even a supporter of Bola Tinubu. I believe in the principles of Benjamin Franklin, the first Secretary of State of the United States, which says that patriotism is supporting your country all of the time and supporting your government when they deserve it. And for the past year, from what I've seen, Bola Tinubu's administration deserves my support because a lot of the things that they are doing were things that my party said they were going to do, things that I even put together for my party, like floating the naira, removal of subsidy, the student loan idea, and a number of other things that they're doing in the security architecture. So it's not campaigning for him. And the reason why I wasn't able to see the president, or why I wouldn't see the president, if you recall, I came to Nigeria before the verdict of the Supreme Court. So at that time, there was still a legitimate challenge to the presidency or to the president. And so, being that I'm a personal friend, very close friend of Waziri Atiku, I felt it would have been an act of betrayal for me to agree to see the president. The opportunity was there, it was presented to me, and I turned it down because, it would have been a completely different matter if I had come after the Supreme Court verdict.
But a lot of, when you say you're not a campaigner for Bola Tinubu, but you've been going around and talking about his policies, how he's, I mean, you've said a lot of things. In fact, when you went to Chicago, you came back and you started talking good about Bola Tinubu, someone that you have opposed, and those people will believe that something really has happened. It's changed Reno's mind. Maybe according to those who oppose you or your opponent, said, look, you have been compromised because what you say you wouldn't stand for, things that you're already talking about and you're supporting. You've been talking about gleefully about how great Bola Tinubu is, someone you have spoken against in the past.
No, that's not accurate. I've never said how great Bola Tinubu is. And to go exactly, or rather, to go to your point, I did go to Chicago. I went to Chicago September 18th, and then I visited the University of Chicago State University September 19th. Now, I went there with the aim of exposing Bola Tinubu as a fraud and as somebody who was claiming a degree that he did not have. When I went there, I did a recording of myself there. A lot of all these other people that talk on social media and then they bamboozle Nigerians, they didn't go there. I went there. And when I went there, I was told in no uncertain terms by the powers that be at that university that this man did attend the university. I was showing documentary photographic evidence. And so if you look at my statement before September 19th, I was saying that Bola Tinubu did not attend Chicago State University. After September 19th, I said, listen, the man did attend Chicago State University, because I'm not going to lie and say that a person did not attend a school that he attended. Now, I went there September 19th, September 18th and September 19th of 2022. And then 3 months later, in December, I was protesting Bola Tinubu in front of Chatham House. So if I was compromised, how would I now, 3 months later, be protesting against Bola Tinubu at Chatham House? I mean, the Chatham House event was even more famous than the Chicago State University event. It's just that I'm not going to oppose Bola Tinubu on the basis of a lie. Now, having said that, when he assumed office, the policies that we said we were going to do, the man is doing them. Floating the currency, I was one of the first people to champion that. Removal of subsidy, I've been in support of that since the Obasanjo administration. Student loan, I've written about that. I said that bandit leaders should be killed. The man has killed Ali Kachala. He has killed Boderi, who has been terrorizing Kaduna. He has killed Sani Dangote, who was terrorizing Zamfara and Jigawa. So obviously, when he does those things, I will praise him. General Muhammadu Buhari was our president for 8 years. 17 times publicly, when he did things that were right, I praised him. That is how I am. I will support my country all the time, and I'll support my government when they deserve it.
Do you know what your opponents are saying?
I don't care what they say.
No, but they are saying that you only switched your position, or you changed your mind because they've reached out to you and you have been compromised. That, I mean, simply put, you have been given money.
Okay, well, I mean, it's their own opinion, and I'm not going to be moved by anybody's opinion. But if they have any evidence to the fact that I've been giving money, let them bring it out. Let them come and say, okay, I've been giving money. No, I have not collected a dime from the Bola Tinubu administration, and I'm not going to collect a dime from this administration at all. I do have a brother in this administration, Malam Nuhu Ribadu. And Malam Nuhu Ribadu and I are so close. We've been very close even before he was in this administration. We spent time together in California over a decade ago. I mean,
is it the one who reached you to support this government?
So say that again?
Is it the one who reached you and convinced you to work for this government?
I mean, I wouldn't say that he reached me and convinced me to work for this government. I don't work for this government, However, when he was appointed as a national security advisor, I did say publicly that as long as Malam Nuhu Ribadu is in this administration, that I will give Nigeria all my support. I said that publicly. I did not hide that. Malam Nuhu Ribadu is not the kind of person that will give anybody a dime. I am not sure. I can't speak for him, but I don't think that Malam Nuhu Ribadu is, I don't want to embarrass him, but I'm not sure he's a rich man.
So because of Nuhu Ribadu, that's why you're supporting Bola Tinubu's government?
I'm not supporting Bola Tinubu's government. I'm supporting Nigeria. And as far as this government is doing the right things, I will support them. Now, let me tell you something that you need to understand. Malam Nuhu Ribadu was a member of my party. He was a member of the People's Democratic Party. I think Malam Nuhu Ribadu has been a member of the PDP longer than he has been a member of the APC. Apart from that, we have spent time together. He has spent time in my house in California. This is 15 years ago. Played with my children. You know, my children, I mean, they know him personally. They took photos together. And, you know, we're very, very close. When I was in office as one of the spokesmen of former President Jonathan, you see that there were times when he did clash with that administration. I never spoke against him. He never spoke against me. We maintained our friendship. So because of me, while I was in the Jonathan administration, because I met him, I drove to his house. I remember I drove to his house with my brother, and I talked to him, and he said, okay, Reno, because we are in this government, I am not going to join these other members of the APC to harass this government, to harangue this government. I'll keep quiet because of you. So I owe him the same courtesy that he did to me when I was in office, to show him that same brotherliness, that fraternal relation, now that he's in this administration.
So you are saying, because I know that you profess that you are a Christian, you profess that you believe in God, and I imagine that someone of your of your conviction will not lie about whatever you are engaged in. Are you saying that nobody convinced you about speaking about Bola Tinubu?
Well, okay, let me put it this way. Nobody gave me money to speak about Bola Tinubu. Nobody gave me money to support Bola Tinubu. And, you know, I mean, I live in my own house, and first and foremost, I've got several homes, several residences. And thank God that I live in the West. You know, people can go on different kinds of database, and then they check my assets. Last year alone, just the tax that I paid, and I believe David Gundein, who is an investigative journalist, I believe that he hates my guts. So he can actually go and verify if I'm lying or not. The tax that I paid to the United States government, I paid the tax of $36,000. So you can imagine the kind of income that I earn. No, but this is last year.
Where do you earn this money from? What do you do for a living?
First and foremost, you know, I have the most subscribers of anybody in Nigeria on X. I've got thousands of subscribers who pay $5 a month subscribing to me. Secondly, I have not an entertainment channel. I'm talking about a channel of business. I have more subscribers than anybody in Nigeria on YouTube. I'm not talking, and listen, I have to say this very clearly, because some people, they hear one thing, they understand another. I'm not talking about entertainment, I'm talking about business. No other human being in Nigeria has as many subscribers as I do, you know, on YouTube. Also, I'm a best-selling author. I sleep, I wake up, money enters into my account. Also, I'm paid to speak. You know, I go to different countries to speak. You know, I was in Kenya recently. I had my birthday in Kenya. I also spoke in Kenya. I was paid. I just got back from Texas. I was paid to speak in Texas. So I do earn money from various sources. So money is, I mean, yeah, money is important, but it's not one of my problems. However, I would say that brotherhood, fraternal relations are very important to me. And Malam Nuhu Ribadu being in this administration, I tend to look more kindly on this administration than I would have done an administration such as Muhammadu Buhari's administration.
So the question I asked you, Mr. Omokri, is did anybody speak to you, apart from you saying you never collected money, did anybody speak to you about talking about this government? Did you have any conversation?
Yeah, let me answer that. Again, nobody spoke to me and said, support this administration. No. Last year, I was invited to Nigeria, and I met with the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, and he explains to me what this administration wants to do. And he told me, look, Reno, I know that you were part of the PDP, part of the people that came about with their manifesto, or rather the personal manifesto of Waziri Atiku Abubakar, and I know that these and these and these are important to you. We are going to do them. And so in that regard, if you're talking about that, yes, then somebody did talk to me. But beyond that, as in giving me money or telling me I must support President Bola Tinubu, nobody spoke to me.
But do you count it as disloyalty? Because prior to the election, you are a huge supporter and a campaigner for Atiku Abubakar. Do you see it as some kind of disloyalty? Because that is what some of your opponents say it as, that you are very disloyal.
Well, I mean, I really don't care what my opponents say about me, but in terms of Waziri Atiku Abubakar, till today is the 18th day of April. I am still probably the closest person to him, or rather one of the closest persons to him. He spoke to me yesterday. We talk, we communicate. So, I mean, the problem of disloyalty only arises in the minds of, let's say, people that don't even know the man. I believe that you must have read what former President Jonathan said about me. He said that I am the definition of loyalty. Once I pick a person as a friend, I'm going to be loyal to that person. However, look, in this situation right now, I have a friend and brother, Madam Ribadu, in this administration. I also have a friend, a very, very close friend, and elder brother, Waziri Atiku and Peter Obi, who contested against the president. So I got to manage those two relationships, and I'm doing that. But you people that don't know me, if they want to say that about me, then that's their headache. I mean, I am a very, very forceful and strong-willed person. What people say does not affect me. God did not put me on earth to live up to anybody's expectations.
If you were confronted with the option of choosing between Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu, who would you go for?
I will resign from politics.
If you were presented from that situation.
As the Lord is my witness, if I am told to choose between one or the other, I will resign from politics until both of them retire from politics.
Why so?
Because if I'm asked right now, between now 2024 and 2027 to make that choice, it will mean that I would have to go against my conscience and attack Bola Tinubu when he's doing things that I support. So I'm not going to do that. I'll just resign from politics. However, when it comes to 2027, now listen to me very carefully, when it comes to 2027, if Waziri Atiku Abubakar is running again, then I am duty bound to support him. That is for the elections. And when I support a person, I'm not going to pull any punches. I will come out openly. I will come out vigorously. I will bring in my money. In the last election, I raised $50,000 for him. I didn't go to meet him. I was collecting money. I will raise money and I will support him. But between now and then, this period that we have for governance, I'm not just going to start attacking Bola Tinubu for the sake of attacking him. No, I'm not going to do that.
But you think that the Bola Tinubu administration is doing well so far?
I believe that the Bola Tinubu administration so far is doing well. Look, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Now, we said we were going to float the Naira. Bola Tinubu has floated the Naira. Now, if I begin to attack Bola Tinubu for floating the Naira that we said we were going to do, what does that make me? Is it not a hypocrite? And then look at that. When the Naira began to lose value very fast, what did the administration do? They moved against Binance. Binance was a platform for price gouging against the Naira. $26 billion left Nigeria in a little over a year from Binance. They shut down that platform. They also revoked the licenses of 4,173 bureau de changes that were collaborating with unscrupulous officials in banks to also take advantage of the Naira. And then they stabilized the value of the Naira. The Naira is now appreciating. Today, as I speak to you, the Naira is trading at 1,020 Naira to $1. That is a good thing. Why would I come and start being against that? Also, if you look, and I said it before, if you look at what they are doing in security, people can now begin from Abuja and travel to Kaduna by road, by rail, by air, without incident. Why should I attack that? You see, if you want me to start attacking the president just because, just because I'm not in office or because it's in another political party, I am not going to do that. In Nigeria right now, I'm going to tell you something. In Nigeria right now, the administration of Muhammadu Buhari was a conservative administration. This administration, Bola Tinubu's administration, even though they style themselves as APC, they are more in line with the economic and the political policies that we in the PDP espouse.
So if the Tinubu government continues in this trajectory that you have described, which you think that it is good, they're on the right pedestal, and they're doing well. That is according to your own analysis. And for some reasons, they kept it up, and they keep it up, and they to the very end of this the 4 years, and they're doing well, and everything goes well. Security is very well done. Economy is in top notch, and every other thing is well. would you still change your mind, or you still retain the notion of supporting Atiku Abubakar against Bola Tinubu if he wants to run for a second term, and if Nigerians think that Bola Tinubu has done well after the first 4 years?
Well, it's a matter of principle. It's just a matter of principle. I would not want to be the kind of person that will now abandon my friend who I encouraged to contest in 2019. I was personally responsible for choosing his running mate. Peter Obi cannot deny that I was the one who recommended him to Waziri Atiku Abubakar. Waziri Atiku Abubakar asked me to help him choose a running mate. I called former President Jonathan. I discussed with him. Former President Jonathan told me, look, it must be Peter Obi. And then I told former President Jonathan, look, I cannot just give this man only one name. And so we padded the list with some other people's names, and then we put Peter Obi's name and then made it so rosy. And Waziri Atiku Abubakar chose Peter Obi. After the man has done me that kind of great honor, then I will now turn against him and begin to support his opponents for election. I cannot do that. I will not like to be even friends with somebody who can do that. Rather than do that, I will just basically resign from politics. If Waziri Atiku Abubakar is going to contest in 2027, if he is able to get the presidential ticket of our political party, that is People's Democratic Party, I am, look at what I'm using, duty bound to support him.
Do you regret, according to your own statement, that you proposed Peter Obi to Atiku Abubakar? Do you regret taking that decision?
I don't regret it, because Peter Obi was the best person at that time. Peter Obi was, look, Waziri Atiku Abubakar has said this to me in private, and I'm going to betray just slightly his confidence. He told me, Reno, look, I did not know this man. It is you that knew him. He told me that, and this is an exact quote, I did not know this man. It is you that knew him. The man at that particular time was the right person for the job. But then in 2023, when he decided to contest privately, and he also cannot deny that, because, if I'm nothing at all, I'm a meticulous record keeper. I told myself, listen, if you contest, you are not going to win. The only thing that you're going to achieve in contesting is that you are going to split the People's Democratic Party votes and make it possible for Bola Tinubu to win. But you are not going to win. I told him that. So, if people are talking about, okay, I am commending some of the policies of the Bola Tinubu administration, recently, this same Peter Obi was in, I believe it was in Bauchi State, and then he did a borehole project there in a community there. A lot of people lambasted him because of the quality of the work. If you go back and look at what I wrote, both what I published in the traditional media and on social media, I praised him, and I said that this is going to promote peaceful religious coexistence. So I'm not just somebody who will just attack and attack and attack. I do it on a person by person and instance by instance basis.
Atiku Abubakar will probably going to be, maybe by the time it's 2027, he's in his 70s now, running to his late 70s. Do you think at that age, if he decides to run in 2027, is it the right thing to do?
Why would it be a wrong thing to do? The combined age of those who are contesting in the US presidential election this year, the combined age is 79 and a half. The combined age is 79 and a half. In the United States, and this is the biggest democracy, in terms of, not in terms of number, India is the biggest democracy in terms of number, but in terms of, impact on the world stage, America is the biggest democracy. And so if it's not a problem for America, why should it be a problem for Nigeria? This man, if he's going to run, he's going to come on board with institutional memory. He contested for the presidency multiple times, and then he was vice president. He contested for governorship. He's been successful in the private sector. So the man has a lot to bring on board for Nigeria. One of the reasons why Bola Tinubu is being very successful in his fourth year as president is because he was prepared for the job. Atiku is more prepared than Bola Tinubu because he's had a long time to prepare. So his age, I don't think it's going to be a factor. In fact, I think it's going to be an advantage.
Why do obedience think that you always like to attack Peter Obi? Is it deliberate?
It's just the nature of the obedience. The base of the obedience is it comes from the southeast, and we know that the southeast And I think this is probably the fault of the General Gowon government. After the war, there was no rehabilitation, just like what we've done now, in the Northeast, there's a lot of rehabilitation. After the war, there was no rehabilitation. So there's a lot of post-war trauma from that part of the country. Not everybody, but, there's a critical mass of people who have that. And so they are not able to make a distinction between, being against somebody because of certain issues. Or, for example, I'm going to give you an example now. A lot of them tell me, why didn't I support the best candidate? I mean, I ask them that, how can you say the best candidate? In terms of education, this man is the least educationally qualified. Waziri Atiku has a master's in international relations from Anglo-Ruskin University. Bola Tinubu has a first-class degree from Chicago State University. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso has a PhD in water engineering. This man has a third-class, or maybe, second-class lower I think in philosophy from the University of Nigeria. So in terms of education, he is not as qualified as the others. In terms of achievements while in office, it doesn't come close to any of them at all. So, but in their own mindset, there's a lot of emotional, there's a lot of sentiment, and it comes back to what happened, during the war. So I understand that. A lot of them are going to attack me. But look, at the end of the day, if you hold the election 10 times, Peter Obi is still not going to win. Peter Obi should go back and revisit what I told him. I told him that the best path to the presidency for him is to run as Waziri Atiku Abubakar's running mate, and then be loyal to him while he's in office. And then when Waziri Atiku Abubakar finishes his tenure, naturally the baton will change from the president to him. He didn't listen to me. Well, good luck to him.
Those who disagree with your own notion, that's what you believe. And those who believe that, well, Peter Obi is perhaps one of the best president Nigeria never had.
I mean, Peter Obi is somebody that I know. It is ridiculous for you to say that Peter Obi is one of the best presidents Nigeria never had.
That's what the supporters, that's what the supporters of Peter Obi will think. That they think that out of all those candidates, they think he was the best man for the job at the time.
Let me address that, please. Let me address that. The only way you can judge somebody's future is by somebody's past. And if you look at Peter Obi in Anambra State, I mean, he was asked, now this is not me, Reno Omokri talking, he was asked his singular stellar achievement in Anambra, and he mentioned the brewery that he put in Anambra, and that brewery is a loss-making brewery. Now, today, I'm speaking to Isheyu Okubaloyi. I'm going to tell Nigerians, and especially obedience, I'm giving a challenge. I will give any obedient $10,000. If you want, I can produce the money in cash. I will give any obedient $10,000 if they can name one school that Peter Obi started, completed, and commissioned while he was governor. One school. So how can you say that a man like Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, who built 2 state universities, not 1, 2 state universities, who built over 140 schools, who built 8 hospitals, how can you say that Peter Obi is better than that man? How can you say Peter Obi is better than Bola Tinubu, who took the internally generated revenue of Lagos State from less than 4 billion monthly to about 140 billion naira yearly, who built new towns in Lagos, who started the Lekki Port project, who started the blue and the red lights that we're now seeing, who was able to increase the GDP of Lagos until Lagos became the 6th biggest economy in Africa. Lagos has an economy that is actually bigger than Kenya and Ghana. So, I mean, on what basis are they saying Peter Obi is the best president Nigeria never had? It's when you build something on nothing, it's going to come crashing down.
So you think that Peter Obi is a fluke?
Peter Obi is somebody that would have made a good running mate to understudy the president, to learn on the job, and then after doing that, then he will be prepared. But I mean, on his own, with his current achievements, look, the local government chairman of Etiosa local government in Lagos State has more achievements in governance than Peter Obi.
Would that be a fair statement to make, though?
Of course, it's going to be a first statement. If you are talking in terms of projects, if you're talking in terms of, okay, I'll give you an example now. I know for a fact that the Etiosa local government chairman has built at least, to my knowledge, 3 schools. Now, I'm asking you, Shehu, and if you can't answer it, I'm asking Obedience to answer that question. Name one school that Peter Obi started, finished, and commissioned, and I'll give you $10,000.
All right. I hope that the obedience will take up the challenge. But let's look at it. I mean, your comments about the situation in Nigeria, some will perceive it as a bit skewed because you are not on the ground, you don't feel it, you don't understand how the economy works because you are not on the ground. You don't earn from the economy, you don't feed off from the economy, you are not practically and physically involved in the economy. And those who will say, Reno is speaking because he's in the comfort of the United States home or is flying around Europe and the rest of the world. You really cannot be able to be a good judge of what Nigerians are feeling. Those who believe that things are perhaps the most difficult in the last 20 or 30 years of their lives.
I'm going to address that. I'm an employer of labor in Nigeria, and then you could probably go to the Corporate Affairs Commission. Again, I'm challenging those independent and investigative journalists who hate my guts. I've got, in Nigeria, I've been able to build student hostels. Apart from building student hostels, I also have one or two things that I'm doing, of which I pay people in Nigeria monthly salaries. Those people, they pay taxes. And if Nigerians demand from those people, they can produce their taxes. So to that extent, I am involved in Nigeria. I'm able to gauge the economic temperature of Nigeria because obviously you have to pay your staff above minimum wage. So if you are saying that, okay, because I'm not living in Nigeria all the time, I cannot speak about Nigeria, then what you're going to say is that you're going to tell all the people in the diaspora who have business interest in Nigeria to stop sending money to Nigeria because they are not fully Nigerians. And I'm sure the Nigerian government is not going to like that. To that extent, I'm probably even more of a stakeholder in Nigeria than some of these people that are criticizing me.
How do you assess? I'd like to get your view on what happened yesterday. And there's this back and forth. And we heard the Attorney General has spoken about it. The prosecution of the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, and the manner in which things went, and the present governor, Governor Ododo, and the EFCC saying that there was an obstruction in their plan to arrest the former governor and try him. What is your view about what is going on? As a lawyer, though, and as a lawyer and a citizen and a political commentator, I'd like you to wear those hats.
Okay, now, I've got to be very nuanced here because a lot of Nigerians are not able to rise above their sentiments. So, first and foremost, I have to say that if Yahaya Bello is accused of any crimes, I don't support him for criminal behavior. And I think that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission are within their rights to want to invite him. And if they have a warrant of arrest, to even arrest him, they're within their rights to do that. I don't think that, in Kogi State that he did the best job. I think that, he could have done a much better job, especially when he was chosen by General Muhammadu Buhari after the then candidate of the All Progressive Congress died. He was chosen specifically because he is a youth. And I don't think that he represented the youth to the best of his ability. I don't think that he's the best role model. Now, having said that, that is one aspect of it all. There's another aspect of it all that, people have to look at. That is loyalty. Now, if you are a governor, no matter how much you perform and how well you perform, if you were involved in choosing, selecting, or in anointing your successor, and then you fall out with your successor, it says a lot about your discernment, about your judgment, about your person. Now, I admire Yahaya Bello, not for all of those things that they're accusing him of. No. In fact, if possible, if it can be proven, I will condemn it. But I admire Yahaya Bello for the fact that he's been able to anoint a successor who has become his protector. Because in politics, if you have a successor who cannot be your protector, then that's a disaster. So many people in Nigeria, we see this in almost all the states in Nigeria, where governors, they handpick their successor of the same political party, yet in less than a month, in less than a year, in a very short period of time, they fall out. We've seen that in Kaduna State right now, in just, I think it was about 3 months, and then Ubasani fell out with Nasir El-Rufai. Yesterday, the same yesterday when the EFCC went after Yahaya Bello, the Kaduna State Assembly set up a panel to probe Nasir El-Rufai. We see what is happening in County State. We see what's happening all over the country, in Anambra State, all over the country. So when you have a governor who is able to sustain that loyalty in his successor, it's an admirable quality. But I would say to Yahaya Bello, look, Yahaya, enough is enough. Surrender yourself to the EFCC.
Would you say, what's your comment also on some of these social legal cases, the one involving the cross-dresser, Bobrisky, over the mutilation of the Naira? Is being sentenced, 6 months sentence. And you see the man they call chief priest, Cubana chief priest, he did not plead guilty and he's been granted bail and the sum of 10 million naira with surety. And those who are arguing, Bobrisky pleaded guilty and he was given the maximum sentence. Look at Obi Cubana. Look at what's happening. And those who believe that, oh, whatever is going on is some kind of witch hunt. I've seen some of your commentaries about Bobrisky, but let me get your view on those tendencies that we've seen in the manner in which the EFCC are treated the case. Those who believe that EFCC doesn't have a business prosecuting that kind of matter, but the manner in which the court has handled the case. What are your views?
Well, a lot of Nigerians tend to be very sentimental, very sentimental. And so, I mean, when you're talking about things in Nigeria, you got to bear that in mind. In terms of the legal process, what the EFCC has done is actually flawless. You cannot flaw them. And it is silly for anybody to say that the EFCC should not be prosecuting that kind of thing, because look at their name, Economics and Financial Crimes Commission. Mutilating abuse of the Naira is a financial crime. And so when you have the EFCC doing that, they are actually fulfilling their legal mandate. Now, if you look at what happened with Bobrisky, I believe his name is Idris something. If you look at what happened, he also went to court. He was also given bail. But the only difference between him and this Cubana fellow is that he could not meet his bail conditions. And because he could not meet his bail conditions, he remained in remand. And then when eventually the case came up for hearing, he pleaded guilty. So there is no difference between what the EFCC has done between the Cubana chief priest and with Bobrisky. It's just like Nnamdi Kanu and Omoyele Sowore. When Omoyele Sowore's case came up in court, he was given bail, but he could not meet the bail condition. So he spent months in jail, not because the government wanted to put him in jail, but because he could not meet his bail conditions. As a matter of fact, the judge who was handling the woman said she was very disappointed that somebody like him, who is the publisher of a notorious rag paper and who is also a former presidential candidate, he could not even get somebody to stand by him. But with Nnamdi Kanu, the day that Nnamdi Kanu was given bail, the state senator Eyinanya Abiribe came up and stood shortly for him, and then he met all these conditions, and then he was eventually released. Of course, we know what happened thereafter. Now, that is one aspect of it. There's also the political aspect of it. The EFCC could have gone after any number of people, including Muhammadu Buhari's family, including the family and the person of the former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. They did not. They actually went, and this is an opinion of mine, after Bobrisky, because Nigeria's culture is vehemently against homosexuality and cross-dressing. Now, former President Jonathan took the action of signing into law a bill that criminalized homosexuality and gay marriage, and he paid a heavy political price for it. He was told almost to his face by former President Barack Obama and then Prime Minister David Cameron that they were going to get him, they were going to deal with him, because they put a lot of pressure for him to be like South Africa and some other African countries and accept gay marriage. And former President Jonathan said, no, I'm not going to do it. And they moved against him. They refused to sell weapons to Nigeria. They turned against him. Nigeria was not able to get loans that we needed. And it affected him. It affected his re-election campaign. Bola Tinubu is the savviest politician in Nigeria. I mean, the man is very savvy. And I believe this administration wanted to get at Bobrisky to stop that tendency in our society. And they saw this as a loophole by which they can get at him without the Western powers coming after them for attacking LGBTQ rights.
Would that be right to say that it was because of Bobrisky's orientation? He said he's a male, actually. He's cross-dressing, but has it been ascertained that he's homosexual?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to make any judgment about that. I didn't say that, and I'm not going to say that. But what I did say is that the government, I mean, they would want to keep that kind of tendency in the background. They will not want it to become mainstream in Nigeria, because if you look at our culture, there is no part of Nigeria that doesn't that is not against that kind of lifestyle. So that is why they're doing that. So this is a very fairly conservative country, especially, okay, I'm going to put it this way, in northern Nigeria, they've got a conservative religion. In the southwest of Nigeria, they've got a conservative culture. So between these two places, the north and the southwest, I mean, such a thing is not going to be countenanced. So you need a creative way to address it without alienating the Western powers. Who are you going to need, to fight terror? Who are you going to need, to maybe get loans when you need them, to get transfer of technology? That's all I'll say about that.
Are you worried that maybe the homosexuality tendencies are on the rise in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that.
Maybe, I mean, so the point I'm making, that those who will say those tendencies were there years ago, many years ago, but it looks like there are people who flaunt it on the social media.
Let me respond to you. The whole point of being human is that we all have flaws. Everybody has flaws. The whole point of it being human is that we all have flaws. Now, the period of your date of birth to your date of death is that you work on your flaws so that your flaws don't become a fatal flaw. So everybody, we all have different flaws in our personality, in our biology, in our character. So we shouldn't, as a society, now get to the point whereby people no longer repress their flaws, but they flaunt it. So if we can be creative as a government to do one or two things to keep people, in check, to make them that, okay, they are always striving to be better, they are not giving into their baser instincts, then I would welcome that. If I were president, I would probably do the same thing or even worse.
So, I mean, the chief, Cubana chief priest case and the manner in which EFCC is going after those who they say are mutilating the Naira, do you think that should be the focus of the EFCC?
I don't think that's the focus of the EFCC. I mean, you just mentioned Yahaya Bello. So when the EFCC went after Yahaya Bello, I believe I saw it on TV, they went with about 85 officers. How many officers did you used to go after Cubana? I don't even think that they went with up to 3. So obviously, it is something that is lower on their scale of preference. So I mean, I don't think that. Look, you cannot say that you are going to leave little offenses alone and then just focus on big offenses. The whole idea as a law enforcement agency, when you're picking your targets, you want to pick a suitable target for maximum impact. So when you have a cross-dresser and then you have a flamboyant hotelier and restaurateur, those are very good examples that you can use to give, like a suitable example to other people. We've gone after these people. Be careful. If you can go after them, we'll come after you. The hypocrisy I see from the EFCC is that they could have also used Abubakar Malami as a suitable example. The statute of limitation has not run out on what he did. We saw the video. If they don't have the video, I can present the video to them. They can also go after Yusuf Buhari. They can also go after him too. So that is the hypocrisy. But other than that, I think they are doing a good job.
So, I mean, you look at this gentle man, this boy, very dark black man. By the way, he's been speaking about you and your brother. And you look at his situation also. What's your view on that?
I mean, I will be so disappointed at myself. In fact, I will turn myself upside down and get what they call a koboko and flog myself if I should respond to such a fellow, such a character. No, I'm not going to do that. Next question, please.
I was asking about his own situation. He was arrested. He was detained. And I'm wondering.
Next question, please. That is my answer.
You don't want to speak about VDM?
My answer is next question, please.
Are you afraid of VDM? Because the gentleman would think that.
My answer is next question, please. If I can arrest Buhari in London, surround Abuja House, they called police, Metropolitan police against me. Please, I beg, second base, Jerry, according to Fela. The next question.
All right, let me ask you, are you still a bona fide member of the PDP?
I have never been a card-carrying member of the People's Democratic Party. However, I've paid dues to the People's Democratic Party as an appointee of former President Jonathan. So to that extent, I am still aligned to the People's Democratic Party.
So let me, since you're very much interested about the affairs of the PDP, what is happening in the PDP? What is your view? And we see for the first time, side by side, former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, in the same room with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. And there was a scenario which went viral that we saw between Senator Dino Melaye and former governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom. And it looks like there is a very high intensity of tension that is palpable within the People's Democratic Party about the leadership, about the affairs, about the interests of some of the big wigs in the party, and how the party is able to move forward from there.
You see, that's my issue with Nigerians, being very sentimental and being very emotional. The same day that the People's Democratic Party came together as a united unit, Wike was there, Atiku was there, Damagum was there, Autumn was there, and then Senator Dino Melaye were there. Nobody threw punches. They sat down together and they were talking. They used words. That same day, what was happening in the All Progressive Congress? In Kanu, the world suspended their chairman, the national chairman, Ganduje. And then the state also came in and countered what they did. And then the stakeholders in the geopolitical zone, the Northwest came, and then they did something contrary. And then some other people will say that, okay, they are going to go to court. What is happening in the All Progressive Congress is more turbulent, more dramatic, more of, when I say a shame, than what's happening in the People's Democratic Party. Let's talk about that.
The loyalty of some members of the PDP, for example, what Dino Melaye was angry about. He feels that Mr. Autumn had come publicly to say he's supporting Bola Tinubu for 2027 and is questioning his loyalty. There are those who believe that Nyesom Wike serving in the government of the APC of President Tinubu, the question is loyalty. And they believe that whatever is happening in River State's politics is questionable. What are your views about the ongoings, and especially how the leadership of the party is perceiving the Damagum situation, the Yocha Ayu situation? Is PDP able to come out of this?
Well, first and foremost, Yocha Ayu, Dr. Yocha Ayu is someone I know personally, and he has withdrawn his case from court. So there is no Yocha Ayu situation. With Damagum, we saw what happened with the party yesterday. So I stand by that. I don't agree or disagree. I just stand by it. But then, to go back to your point about, Wike being in the Tinubu administration, in every PDP administration, beginning from former President Olusegun Obasanjo to our administration, former President Goodluck Jonathan, we always had members of the opposition in our government all the time. So former President Obasanjo had members of the APP and the AMPP in his administration. As a matter of fact, one of the people who was speaking for him at that time, Chukwuemeka Ezeife, who just recently passed away, was also an opposition member. Rochas Okorocha was an opposition member. He contested the presidency against the president. He was in our government. Not only that, Senator Bukola Saraki, at that time, he was not a senator. He was a member of another party. He was in our government. Various people who were not in our party were in our government as the People's Democratic Party. So if we could accommodate people of other political parties in our government, then I don't think it's strange for Bola Tinubu to do the same in his own government.
So those who are opposing Nyesom Wike for being in the APC government, you don't agree with them? You think that they don't have a base for their arguments?
Invite them to your show and ask them.
Let me get your view about how things are going on with the PDP, and what do you think is the best way to handle the situation? Those who think that the PDP is not even playing its role as an opposition properly. and the leadership in the party, and the party is also divided along the Atiku Abubakar divide, the Yinsam Wike divide. How do you think is best? I mean, there are those who will say Atiku Abubakar is perhaps one of the oldest of the lot, who are one of the founding fathers of the PDP. In his own stead, what do you think he can do to realign the forces and move the party forward?
You see, I said this. I think I said this 5 months ago. I said the biggest mistake that we made during the campaigns is that we did not make Wike the running mate. If we had made Wike the running mate, probably the election would have ended on a different note. Because Wike is a very forceful person. He's a very, he's somebody that you want on your side because he can be very antagonistic if he's not on your side. So what I would say as a solution is that when you have two forces, and then both forces are not able to overwhelm each other, in chess they call it a stalemate. In French they call it détente. So you have détente. That's what they call it in French. When you have détente, when you have a stalemate, then the best thing that you can do, they say if you cannot beat them, join them. We need to align forces. We need to, there's going to be a way that where we can have compromise, where we can have a win-win situation. We cannot constantly be at war all the time and say, okay, because if we could defeat Wike, Atiku would have defeated Wike. If Wike could have defeated Atiku, he would have defeated Atiku. There is a stalemate right now. They have to find a way to work together.
Let's look at what we were saying generally in the country today. You've spoken gleefully about the situation of the economy, the FX specifically. You talked about Binance and what have you, and how the government is addressing the situation. But the fact remains that the IMF has projected a decline in the foreign exchange external reserve. And they think, those who think that some of the things that we are seeing right now, they are a bit more artificial, and they're just early signs or early signals of some policies of the government that those who are afraid that may not last long. Do you think that the depletion of the foreign reserve poses a threat to the decline in the value of the naira?
Well, actually, you're inaccurate there. The IMF did not say so. The IMF actually projected that Nigeria's economy was going to grow faster and higher than what they had previously projected. So they said that Nigeria's economy initially was going to grow by 3%, then they upgraded our economy that was going to grow by 3.3%. What happened is that a number of publications, Bloomberg being one of them, had come up with sources that had told them that our foreign reserves had depleted over the past 6 weeks. And then I think that was yesterday, and even before he said it, people who are thinking, they all knew. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria had addressed that. Because if you recall, the reason why there was a major issue with the FDI situation in the country was because foreign airlines and multinational companies in Nigeria were being owed a backlog of FX. I think the amount was about $1.2 billion. And then in addition to that, there were also debt servicing obligations that Nigeria had. Now, if you take the payment that were now made to these foreign airlines and the multinationals and the debt servicing obligation that Nigeria had, that is where the depletion comes from. So it's not as if that the Central Bank of Nigeria is defending the naira, as these people say, or as was happening with the Muhammadu Buhari administration in the past. With Muhammadu Buhari, $1.5 billion was being spent every month to defend the naira. That is not what is happening right now.
What do you see about the manner in which the Tinubu government is handling things, and what do you see for the naira's future?
Well, if the Tinubu administration continue to do what they are doing, continue to float the naira, continue with the fuel subsidy removal, not to shift any base, and then continue with the student loan bill, and then if they actually are truthful and are committed to this idea where they say, okay, they are considering what they call it now, petitions from states about state police, then I think that Nigeria is going to do well. It's not just even me saying it. The IMF has upgraded Nigeria Fitch International Ratings has upgraded Nigeria. Standard & Poor's has upgraded Nigeria. KPMG has upgraded Nigeria. So it's not just me. I mean, all over the world, people are seeing that Nigeria is actually going forward. So we're seeing right now that fuel subsidy removal is actually working because Nigeria's fuel imports have reduced by about 57%, and local refinery has now increased by 12%. And then because of that, capital inflow into the country has improved. For the last quarter, our GDP grew by 3.4%. If they continue doing these little things consistently, then I think the future is bright for Nigeria.
Just before we go, let me get your view that since sometimes you call yourself a pastor, are you still a pastor?
I'm an ordained pastor. I was with the pastor of a local assembly for about 4 years. And after I finished my pastoralship, I left Nigeria and I went back to the United States. But I'm still an ordained pastor.
What do you make of Odumeje, Prophet Odumeje, the Abido Shaker? The man is in the UK right now. What do you make as an ordained pastor? What do you make of that man?
Well, I tend not to devote. I'm not sure that it's a very good use of my time and resources to think or to even pontificate about a character like that. I would rather, maybe think about somebody that I believe is going to add value to me, or by thinking about him, I can also add value to my country. I'm not sure that I can apply my time and my resources to such a fellow.
Mr. or Pastor Reno Omokri, thank you so much.
No, Mr. is okay. Mr. is okay.
Thank you so much. I guess if you are an ordained pastor, you've earned it also. Thank you so much indeed for the time that you've spared for this conversation, and I hope that you've enjoyed every bit of it.
Thank you for having me, and may God bless you.
Thank you so much indeed. Thank you so much, everyone. And that is our conversation with Mr. Reno Omokri, and I hope that you are able to enjoy every bit of it. Thank you so much indeed for watching. And all of the views of Mr. Omokri, I know some which you agree with, some you do not agree with. But then there are a few things to pick out from that conversation. Thank you so much indeed, everyone, for joining in on this edition of the MyCom Podcast. I see you again. Thank you so much indeed. God bless Nigeria, and see you some other time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Shayono Kimbaloi. Mike On Podcast for the independent mind.